Hey, what's going on everyone? Today we're going to take a look at some of the items that I bring winter camping with me.
Oh man, the lighting's wrong for full flex.
So, when you have a truck like the Moose, sometimes you got to clear some trails. So this little Milwaukee So if you guys seen the video from last week, that was kind of like the general stuff that I bring camping with me. And then this episode is just going to be like the winterized stuff because 'tis the season. And I'm actually getting ready to head out this weekend on a little Christmas get-together camping trip with some of my buddies. So I'm going to kind of reflect off of the little list that I showed you from last video, which is a packing list. That was made by New Holland Overland, cool dude over there. You can find this on his website as well as some of his awesome products that he makes there. So I'm going to be kind of going through this and kind of just showing and describing some of the things that I will bring with me. So I guess the first section here is clothing, so let's do that. All right, so first off is some good like boots. Now, if you're in deep snow like what we have had, although most of it is kind of melting out today, the other day, Joey from Rip It Outdoors and I were out doing some snow wheeling, and I usually wear a set of Keens that are waterproof, but on that I also had some boot gaiters. Now, if you don't know what a boot gaiter is, it's basically this thing that kind of goes over your boot and kind of protects snow from like going inside your shoe. So your shoe would go like right in here, this will go under it, and these are waterproof. These are super nice, not even just for like snow, even if it's like summertime and you're moving through the woods, like use these out hunting if I'm in like a wet area or something like that. Just a really nice item to have. So of course you're gonna want some like warm wool socks. I try to stay away from the synthetic stuff because they tend to not be as dryable as some of the other stuff. Now of course with modern amenities, is it really a big of a deal? No, but it's just kind of a thing to keep in mind. Now depending on the weather, I usually bring a couple different types of layers, like warming layers, but I try to always remember, and I usually always forget, to bring like a heavier like jacket or warming layers, things of that sort. So I do have, like, I call it my Norway jacket because I got it from my buddy over there, and it's just basically a really thick Carhartt, you know, jacket. It's like windproof, waterproof, all that kind of fun stuff. Also just having like some nice jackets, or you know, not just going out with like a sweatshirt and calling it good. If you guys are familiar with like some of the waffle top or insulating warming type layers, those are really nice too. This that I have on is a heated vest. These are kind of like, you know, a new up and coming thing, and I actually just got this one, so I'm excited to try it out. And then if it's like super cold out, you could always wear some of those like pants that have like the felt inner lining. It was gonna be like super cold and rainy, but now I think it's just gonna be like 40s, so that won't be bad at all this weekend. Now of course you got to have a warm sleeping bag. Now people can do, or I know people will do like 32 degree bag if it's like somewhat cold out, but keep in mind like those temperature ratings are like survivability ratings, not like comfort level ratings. So for example, I have this really big Cabela's Outfitter series, which is in an XL size, so like when you completely unzip everything, it will essentially be a blanket for a king size bed. And this is a negative 20 degree bag, so this thing keeps me nice and toasty. But if you didn't want to spend that kind of money to get like a bigger, nicer sleeping bag, you could do something like a 32 degree bag and then something like this. This is a little heated throw. It's not really a heated blanket, it's not quite that big. But one thing that's even nice, and I'll do this in my negative 20 degree bag, is with the little Rockpals that I have behind me here, I kind of throw this up in the tent, and then I'll plug this guy in and then put this into the sleeping bag if it's really cold. So that'll kind of like preheat it, so that way when I get in, it's not cold and then I have to use my body heat to warm it up. Or it's just really nice for like at camp, and you know, you're not close to the fire because you got a big group of people or whatever, or you know, the wife wants it, or just a really nice thing to have. Even if you're just driving and like your heat's not that good, or you have that one person that's like always cold no matter what. And then obviously you want to have like a nicer, warmer pair of gloves and a beanie and all that kind of stuff. Usually most of that stuff I keep in the truck anyway, so it's not really packing per se. And then something that not many people think about, but when you're doing like a bunch of trail riding and stuff, bring some sunglasses. I know during the winter time it's usually mostly, you know, cloudy and you don't need them, but those days when it is sunny and you're doing trail riding, it reflects off the snow and it's bright and it glares and it sucks. Now, if you are sleeping in like a rooftop tent, you're not gonna have to necessarily worry about this next one, but because I did sell my rooftop tent recently and I'm staying in a little Ozark Equipment pop-up tent that's like a summer one this weekend, I will be bringing a Thermarest, like, what do you call those things? Thermal mat, you know, iso mat type thing, where you put your sleeping bag on top of it, and usually it's like a styrofoam mat, that's usually not very thick, or you could even do, like, I have one that you kind of like pump up, it has like, it's, I don't know, some weird like suction pump thingy, and it's just air. So I'll be having one of those with me, and that will basically keep your body heat from being sucked into the ground. So even though I do have this, you know, negative 20-degree sleeping bag, that can still happen. Now, as far as pillows go, in the cold, you don't really want to bring like the memory foam type ones because they will get like very hard. So any kind of like normal pillow will work just fine. Now, one thing I usually keep in my truck for like recovery gear purposes is a shovel. Now, it's nice to have a shovel and recovery gear, so that way if you are going out and you get stuck, or you need to shovel out a fire pit if you don't have like a portable stand-up one, or another item that we'll be getting into later, it's just nice to have around camp, so that way you can, you know, move snow if need be, or maybe you want to clear some out for your tent or what have you. Now, it goes without saying, whenever you're going out and about, you should always have good recovery gear, good signal gear, whether it being like a GPS, cell phone, signal flares, whatever, and medicals, so that way you guys can stay safe around the trail and out there in the woods. So this guy is a little multicam poncho liner, or would be for my army guys. These things, it doesn't look like much, but they're actually very warm. So even just laying this on like a chair for at camp, it'll kind of keep the back warm, or, you know, it's a blanket. There's a ton of different uses for it. Now, kind of going into more of some of the luxury items. This is the little Mr. Buddy heater. These are kind of very popular in all kinds of outdoor activities. They just use a little green 1-pound propane tanks, we'll call that. Yeah, let's go with that. So this I usually keep in the tent or the rooftop tent to kind of preheat that before I get in it, or in the mornings, so that way I don't have to get out into a cold tent, get dressed for the day, and all that fun stuff. Now, I did just get a hookup for this, so instead of using a bunch of these tanks, I can actually wire it, router it, whatever, what's a good word, hook it up to a 20-pound propane tank that I will now be carrying with me. And on top of carrying a couple of those little 1-pound green Coleman tanks, I always carry one of these little torch heads here. So this is nice for like starting fires, and you know, it's fire. These are basically some little fire starters. Now, one cool thing that I, for whatever reason, never thought about until recently, but those like wrapped fire logs that you can find at like stores for like a normal fireplace at home, you know, like the real safe ones or whatever. It's a great idea to start a fire with because they light really easy and they will last for a little while. And then another new item I did just get, I'm not going to pick it up because it's kind of heavy, is a little propane fire pit. Now, I've been at camps with friends, and these things are really nice to have. Now, how long will it last? That just depends on the usage and, you know, how many days you're out. I did get a 20-pound propane tank that is going to be like a camp specific for heating purposes as well as cooking. I've kind of been going back and forth to a couple of different things for cooking options, as far as like single burner stoves, just using the jet boil, and so on and so forth. So now to talk about one of the last things they always bring out. Last but not least, your 4-legged heaters. This is Tank. He's my St. Bernard, and he's been my buddy the most recent of the kind of bigger trips that I've been taking. So every time I go out, at least try to bring one of my dogs out with me because they're really fun to have along on the trips, and for the most part they really enjoy it, except when Tank wants to bark at all the dogs and not be quiet. Usually I always have a dog bed in the truck anyway for them when they're trialing with me, and then I will usually just take that, put it in the tent, so that way they do have something to lay on. Some of the dogs will usually lay on the sleeping bag, making it kind of difficult, like Tank, to move around in it. Well, that will kind of wrap this little video up. I know there's not a ton to it, but hopefully it'll be a good addition to last week's video. I'll be sure to link that down in the description below, or you can go on the channel, check out some of the content I have there. And as always, appreciate the support. We'll catch you guys in the next one.